This year, 2019, Bentley Potter School of Dance with the Cascade Festival Ballet presented The Magical World of Dance, a production of dance in Queen's Hall, Trinidad. This was a production which included 200 children, and that also included the Cascade Festival Ballet. The actual story of the ballet was based on J.M. Barrie's famous story, Peter Pan. We called it Neverland, and that was the lower school children's ballet. That was acting and dancing mime. The second part of the program was the Cascade Festival Ballet, which included three ballet pieces. Well, my name is Avril Potter, and I am essentially a dance teacher in classical ballet. I've been teaching in Trinidad for 50 years actually, so it's a very long time, and keen to give a show that will bring quality to people's lives. When I start with a performance, I have to be inspired first of all with the pieces that I'm going to present. I get my inspiration primarily from the music. I never just have an idea and then look for music. I hear music that inspires me, and from that I go ahead and quite rapidly choreograph the pieces that I'm going to do. So the music is the first thing, the ballet and the steps come after that, and then the costuming. I do all that myself because once I've got my idea for the choreography, everything else is all part of that. So I don't really need or want anybody else to come into it and say, well, this is what your costume should be. I know the colors, I know the style, period of costume, all of that, and that all goes in to present the show.
Firstly, I have to think about different ideas that the school can do. So for this particular show, we realized that we had covered all the Christmas themes, and there was nothing else we could do with a Christmas thought. So I went into a bookshop and started to look through all the different fairy tales. So when we picked up Peter Pan, the thoughts then started to create, and realized that you could take lots of little aspects of Peter Pan and create it into a school production. So once that was done, I then went to the teachers and put the idea to them, and I'm always very open for anyone to say, but I have another idea. But everyone seemed to be quite happy with the Peter Pan thought. We had to create our own storyline. So we took it from one of the Peter Pan books, and then we added in our own little words. And I asked then Mrs. Potter to do the voiceover. We also had to choose who we were going to put in different parts, so like the main leading parts. And we came up with all final names by the end of August. Once we did that, we then had to sit down and decide where the music was coming from and what music we were using. Now, to put the music together, we spent overall 13 hours with the gentleman who was taking our music and putting it together for us. So we had to cut pieces, we had to splice and put pieces together. So over many days, we would sit there for 4 hours at a time. That was done, I would say, by July. Everybody got their piece of music, and we all had to go away and do our choreography. So I take a piece of music, and for me, I have to listen to it for quite a long time. I always find it very difficult to get the first few steps. Once I've been able to do the first 16 counts, it tends to flow. I have little drawings to sort of show if it's a circle or if it's a straight line. I'm hearing it in my head, and I am imagining what I think it would look like, and I'm writing it all down. But then once I take those steps and I start to put it on to the students to do it, it could be a disaster. And I think, well, what I thought I could do, it's not happening. Most of the time it works. I would say once I have it on paper and we're going through it slowly, the students learn it within 2 to 3 classes. And then if I have, then I know, okay, right, I can either make it a little bit more difficult, or that pattern isn't working, the girls are finding it difficult, so I take steps out to make it a little simpler, but it usually takes about 3 classes before the girls learn it, and then we have to start training it after that.
We start with our training, and I begin to train the girls with the ballet that I'm going to be doing, and it takes quite a while. We have to do a lot of rehearsing. It's not just putting it together, it's working it together, and the girls that we teach have to be very, very dedicated and want to present something of real quality and beauty.
So we started learning our pirate dance in September, on the first day back at Ballet, but we started learning more of the company pieces in April, so before summer, because there's so much to do. So for this show, in our Wednesday grade 7 class, we have recently just been doing a fun warm-up, so not the typical bar, and then we've just gone straight into the dance. So we started learning it in bits and pieces, and about 2 weeks in we actually put it together and put people in their positions. I'm in advanced foundation, which is doing many dances in the second half of the show, and so at the start of our class we will do our typical bar warm-up, which Mrs. Potter works us through, and then she'll have us do some warm-ups in the center, such as Pizzia Allegro or maybe the turns, and this warms up our feet and our muscles for the dances, which we run, and we usually start with one of our point dances. So we'll put on our point because it's very different to normal shoes, and we have to make sure that our feet are warmed up because we can seriously injure ourselves if we're not warmed up on point. And then we'll do the dance, and we often wear our white skirts just so that we can get the feel of the costume.
I had to then say, okay, what is the rehearsal schedule? That takes quite a long time because you now have to work out all the different situations you have. Students have SEA, some students have confirmation, some students have first communion. So we had to try and juggle, and so that takes quite a few days to sort that out and put that together. I would say the first 5 Saturdays are all individual pieces being trained. So we bring our classes in, and let's say I'm doing the Pirate Girls, I would have from 9 to 10 Pirate Girls, 10 to 11 would be Pirate Boys, so it's all individually done. And then we start to build the first section. So we'll say, okay, we break the whole show into 3 sections, and we say, right, we're going to build the first section, which is the opening section. We're going to build the second section. Once we've built the second section, we then put the 2 sections together. That's how we build the ballet, so that when we're at Queen's Hall, we can just run it and just place.
So for the past 3 Saturdays, I've actually been here from 8 o'clock in the morning until 2:30 in the afternoon, which is a very long day, but it's worth it because we work on our dances and we have fun.
Yeah, I have to come up and I have to have a meeting with Mrs. Potter in which we discuss each dance, each costume, what we think will go for the material-wise, how many, and I go to town and I check out all the material they have, and if I'm positive, I buy so many yards of this for that. Otherwise, I just get swatches, come back up to Mrs. Potter, show her, and she say, yes, this, no, this won't do, yes, that will do, why don't you make this a little brighter, something like that. So I'll go back down to town, find more swatches. Following day, come back up, show her the swatches, she says, yes, that's perfect, whatever, that's perfect. And I would organize how many girls, how many costumes for each different dance, and I would go down and buy in bulk. My costumes cost material alone, minimum of $30,000. I cut so many skirts, so many tops, pants, whatever. And then I'm ready, I call my stitcher and she will give me 3 days a week. It is a lot of work, but Mrs. Potter is perfectionist and the costumes have to be perfect. I have to go up to the studio on the days the girls are going to be there and try to measure them accurately. It's very difficult, but anyway, we get through.
We usually take Queen's Hall for a week. It's usually all we can afford to do because it's quite an expensive venture. And in that week, we put everything together on the stage. We literally lift it out of the studio onto the stage in the same way that we've been rehearsing it. But now we have our lighting, we've got our audio system, we've got our stage manager and all our helpers and our wardrobe mistress standing by. There's a lot of people involved, and we all have to get on really well together so that we can produce something that is memorable for the audience.
And because we've rehearsed so much at the studio and the running of the show at the studio, that when we get to Queen's Hall, we just have to say to the girls, come in and do your dances. We place it so that the formation is correct, and then we run it because everybody knows what they have to do, so it's in their heads.
My job is the flow of the show. So all the cues, I will call the cues, I will make sure the dancers are ready for stage, getting them ready. And also in a way to keep them calm and stuff, so I will be talking to dancers as they're going along. So my really job as the stage manager of this production, the flow of the show, all the cues. Yes, I will call lights and sound, I will also call for props to go on and come on. I come to rehearsal, I see what the production is all about, then after I come in and we start to put up all the soft goods, like all the legs, all the sides. We will do all that before. By the time they come in, we'll then put up sets, and then so I will manage all that. So by the time we reach in the production, we in a flow.
We also have to get ready, and that can be a bit chaotic too because there's a lot of us in the room at one time. So we have to do that strategically. So we have to make sure that we're ready at least 20 minutes before the show starts.
I do my hair and my bun, and I make sure, my bun is very stable for the night of the show. You don't want any mishap. And then I do my makeup, which I have a set routine that I've done for years now. And you just, basically the makeup has to be huge, it has to be grand, but you don't want it to make you not look like yourself. You just want all your features to be emphasized, and you just want to look as beautiful as possible on stage, obviously.
Class reps and backstage, we call them backstage helpers. They play a big part in the running of the show at Queen's Hall because the teachers put it together. We make sure that at the studio, the students all know the entrances, the exits. The parents know exactly where they have to come in, where they have to come off, so that when we get to Queen's Hall, those mothers now run it.
So one of the things we do as class rep is ensuring that the shows run smoothly. This involves ensuring that they have enough parent helpers to assist backstage, that the girls know what times they need to be at rehearsal at the studio for the weeks leading up to the show, and also that the girls are aware of the rehearsal schedule for Queen's Hall.
And the night of the show, it is amazing what happens to costumes. That's why I walk with my sewing machine, a portable, my glue gun, my thread, my zips, my Velcro, my whatever, because there's always something to fix. No matter how perfect the costumes are, somebody's zip pops and they have to go on stage in 3 minutes. So you either pin them in or you rip out the zip and sew in another one quick. But it's exciting.
Warm-up is an important part because as dancers, if we go on without warming up, then we can get injured really easily. We always go downstairs into the auditorium and we use the edge of the stage, we use the bars on the side and we use the chairs as a bar and we use that to warm up. We do a full warm up with all of our exercises, pliés, tendus. If we're doing point, we also have to put on our point shoes because if you don't warm up on point, it'll be really, really easy to roll your ankles or something like that, and that's something you cannot happen on stage. On stage is just magical. I mean, they have all the mishaps that happens with the headpieces flying off and the little mistake that happens. I mean, once you get on stage, it's not so much about remembering choreography, it kind of just comes to you because you've done it so much, and it's just time to perform, let your heart out, we all know.
At the end of the day, the work that had been done by the children from the age of 4 years old right up to our more professional students was very, very encouraging to our school. It's not something we can just throw together. It's a workshop to get the show on the road.